Chapter 13. I still couldn't believe I'd forgotten my necklace. It was because I'd woken up late that day and was in a hurry. It must have fallen off as I was changing my shirt. I kept looking up at the dark sky, waiting for Naoki to drop a tornado on me. Rockney assured me that the nature demon couldn't do anything to the island, that it was protected by a spell similar to the one that hindered the waves on the cliffside highway. I tried to watch TV but couldn't concentrate on the images. I tried reading that dumb book I'd been working on for months, but that too ended poorly. I was this close to getting rid of the thing altogether. As I tossed it in my backpack, I thought I saw something in the corner of my eye. When I looked out the window directly in front of me, all I saw was the road and the mountains. And then I saw something to my right, on the far side of the gatehouse. It had looked like a shadow on the street, like someone was walking away. I looked up at the monitors to see if the cameras had caught it, but there was nothing there. I went back to looking at the TV since I couldn't enjoy it. There was a sitcom on, and the laugh track was grating on my nerves. I hate sitcoms with live audiences. I saw something again in my peripheral vision, on the far side. I looked quickly and just saw a solid form step away from the sliding door. I jumped out of my seat, my heart racing. I looked up at the monitors and saw the last bit of a shadow disappear from view. Someone had just walked out of the camera's sight. I didn't know what to do. I tried to convince myself it was just Astrid paying a visit again, but whatever, I'd seen at the door was a lot taller than her. I opened the sliding door behind me and poked my head out, but saw nothing, heard nothing. I knew doing so was the stupidest thing ever and expected someone to cut off my head at any moment, but nothing happened. I closed the door and crossed over to the other side of the gatehouse. This time I simply looked out the windows. Nothing. When I turned around to head back to my seat, I saw the figure disappear from that door. I screamed this time. Whatever had been there had put its hands on the glass of the door. There was a slimy handprint there. I seriously didn't know what to do. It was 3 a.m, and everyone was asleep. I grabbed the phone and called Ernie. He was my supervisor after all, and he was nearby. "Hello?" he answered groggily. "Hey, Ernie, it's Josh. Something weird is going on here at the village. I think someone is taunting me. He or she keeps circling the gatehouse, but I can't get a good look at them. They just left a slimy handprint on the glass door by the desk." "Did you check the footage on the cameras?" I slapped my forehead. I forgot how to do that. "No problem. Just right-click the mouse and select the playback option." I did so and found the cameras were motion-activated. Little green bars indicated recorded footage. I selected the last thin green bar, and the video played. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Josh, what is it?" Ernie sounded worried, no longer tired. "I have no idea what I'm looking at," I said, as I watched the slimy, black creature look up at the camera before disappearing out of view. Ernie arrived 10 minutes later and examined the footage himself. He kept looking at the slimy handprint as well. "We need to tell Rockney," he said as he reached for the phone. After talking with Rockney, Ernie hung up the phone and said, "Stay here. I'm going to Rockney's and we're going to search the village for that thing." "Okay." The thought of some creature wandering the neighborhood made me shiver. I couldn't believe it had been here with me. None of the sliding doors had locks, for some reason, and it could have easily slipped inside and attacked me. After Ernie left for Rockney's house, I stood watching the monitors. The TV was off and the book put away. I couldn't imagine even pretending to enjoy either. After 30 minutes, I saw headlights approach from up the hill. It was Ernie's truck. He walked up to the gatehouse. "We didn't find it," he said as Rockne joined us. I nodded. "Do you think it's still in the village?" "Absolutely," Rockne said as he watched the footage himself. "Do you know what it is?" Ernie asked him. He paused the recording on the creature looking at the camera. "An intruder." "Intruder?" I asked. "To the island. I put up a 2-part protective spell to ward off uninvited guests. The spell is supposed to make the intruder want to leave the island immediately, but this person stayed. That's where the second part of the spell takes over." He pointed to the monitor. "The spell begins to damage the person's body the longer they stay on the island." "The only person I saw come to the island was Trick, but he's not an unwanted guest, is he?" I asked, scratching my head. "He isn't," Rockne said, "but he may have brought someone who wasn't invited." I shook my head. "What do you mean?" "One of Naoki's many talents is the ability to hitchhike, which means he can ride along inside someone. It's the only way he can walk on land." "Like possession?" I guessed. "Exactly. He may be hitchhiking Trick right now." I looked at the screen again. "Are you telling me that that oozing thing is Trick?" Rockne nodded, still looking at the screen. "Hard to believe, isn't it?" "Is Trick going to be okay?" I asked. "Probably not. I could heal him in the hot tub if I can find him in time, but the longer he's out there, the less likely it'll work." He looked at me now. "Though, I'm not going to save him if Naoki's still using him." He sounded so cold at that moment. I shuddered. "What happens to Naoki if Trick dies?" "He returns to the sky with a vague idea of what he saw here. If he were at full strength, he would remember. But, like I said, he's still weak from attacking you and Shay." "If you find Trick, can you drive Naoki out of him?" "Maybe." The phone suddenly rang, scaring all three of us. I answered. And then I listened, my eyes growing wider by the second. I looked at Rockne. That was Champagne. She said she saw something standing at her window. Ernie and Rockne jumped into the truck and sped down the hill. This night was getting crazier by the minute. I told Champagne help was on the way and then hung up. I was glad Astrid hadn't tried to see me. I couldn't imagine her coming across that thing, Trick, in the middle of the night. It would have been terrifying. Well, maybe even worse than terrifying. Naoki was most likely using Trick to find her anyway. Over the next 20 minutes, I got a few more calls from Victor and the Bell's nurse, telling me they saw or heard something outside their homes. I called Ernie's cell and told him, and he and Rockne checked out each house. I walked back and forth inside the spacious gatehouse, noticing little things I hadn't before. There was a bookshelf in the far corner next to the couch. I'd thought it held books, but noticed that they were cassette audiobooks. Maybe I would listen to them someday. Before I could check the titles, I heard a noise outside. I looked through the large windows on my right, by the entrance lane. The wind blew the trees around me. I returned to the monitors and searched for intruders. Though I didn't know Trick very well, I still felt sorry for him. I hoped Rockne would be able to save him from rotting away entirely. I also hoped something would be done about Naoki. He was a dangerous being who had to be stopped. I still didn't get his agenda. As far as I could tell, he just wanted to regain his full strength and keep on existing. Nothing wrong with that, I suppose. All I wanted to do was live my life without interference as well. I wondered if some kind of truce could be made between Rockne and Naoki. It seemed the only way to fix things. I doubted Rockne would consider it after all the people he'd lost in the war. My nose suddenly started bleeding, so I ran to the bathroom. I guessed all this built-up tension finally took its toll. I heard a door slide open. I threw away the bloody tissue and walked toward the bathroom door, putting my hand on it. My heart beat so fast I thought it would explode. I closed the bathroom door, then pulled out my cell phone and called Ernie. "We haven't found him yet," he said by way of hello. "I think he's here," I whispered, pressing my foot to the bottom of the door, which didn't have a lock. The doorknob turned. The door moved inward. I pressed against it, groaning. I was scared to death. "Hurry back," I said to Ernie. "On our way," he said quickly. I put my phone in my pocket and put all my weight against the door. I didn't quite know what Trick was capable of, or what Naoki was capable of in human form, but I did know I didn't want him touching me. I didn't want to see him up close with his oozing skin. The door stopped moving, and a gentle knocking followed.
"Josh?"
a familiar voice called. "Astrid?" I opened the door slowly and saw her standing there, looking confused. "What are you doing here?" I asked.
"I came to see you. Why?"
"Naoki's in the village, and we think he's after you. You shouldn't be here." I grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door she'd come through. I figured Ernie and Rockne would be there any minute. They could take her home safely. Before we could get to the door, however, we ran into Trick.